Ladies and gentlemen, you are more than welcome to this, the 83rd episode of the Coffee at 11 show, brought to you by wigwam.ie SME Peer Support. Delighted to have in the hot seat this morning as my special guest, good friend for many years, and the rock behind the Coffee at 11 show, our editor-in-chief, Miss Caterina O'Brien. Caterina, you are more than welcome. Please say hello. Show us your coffee mug.
Good morning, everybody. In case anyone forgets my name, there it is. And a little instruction for you today. Echoing Shelley, sing out loud. Excuse the lipstick, it's my trademark.
Very nice, very nice. Excuse the lipstick, it's my trademark. I love it, I love it, I love it. Folks, as ever, let me just tell you a little bit about Caterina O'Brien before we bring the lady herself in. Caterina O'Brien, business name, O'Mahony's Bookstore Customer Service. That's where she's celebrating her almost 20th anniversary there. And she also works with this organization called Colm O'Brien Motivation and the Coffee at 11 show. And what's your business do? She says, in O'Mahony's, my role is varied every day book queries plus dealing with procurement customers such as the HSE, heavily involved in staff training, and I look after all stock returns to suppliers. In Colm O'Brien Motivation, sure you know yourself, she says. In other words, she does everything that I don't do. And that's what keeps the wheels on the train. How long established? It'll be 20 years next February in O'Mahony's, and with Colm O'Brien Motivation since 2015. We'll touch on that in a while. In O'Mahony's, how many employees? In O'Mahony's, she says too many to count, maybe 60, but more in summer season. And in Colm O'Brien Motivation, just me and you, and that is true. So usually found behind customer service desk at O'Mahony's, where she is fast approaching her 20th anniversary, as mentioned. Kat is also a core member of the COB motivation team, having worked with Colm since 2015, and she refers to me as the other COB. Love that. In the same year, 2015, Caterina underwent a massive transformation, some of it visible and some of it not so. And we'll touch on that later if that's okay. Looking forward to that if you're open to it, Kat. And when she isn't working, you'll either find her out training for her first half marathon, postponed to next year having fallen foul of COVID, or singing with the Salon Singers, a 5-piece vocal group which she co-founded 3 years ago. And then something nobody knows about Kat, she says, I was born with an underactive thyroid. Not that common in newborns, usually develops much later on. At that time, not all newborns were automatically screened for this as they are now, so I was lucky to be born where I was. Interesting stuff. Thank you, Kat. Kat, lovely to have you here. Our Kat, our rock. And I'm going to pass it over to you because we want to get to know, as you know, at this point, I said to all my guests, we want to get to know the person behind the name. Who are you? Where do you hail from, etc. Thanks, Kat.
Good morning, and thank you, Colm. I'm delighted to be here, and I was delighted to be asked. So to go back, we have to go back to the very start, to my birth, because that kind of set, I suppose, the precedent for the rest of my life in that, number one, I'm always late. I was 11 days late. My poor mother, I was due before Christmas, and I came in the new year. But also, I count myself as a very lucky person, and I was born in the UK. My parents are both Irish, and they met in the UK and got married over there, had my sister, and then I came along. And fairly normal. 6 weeks later, though, my mother got a phone call. You need to get straight down to Great Ormond Street Hospital. So she brought me down. They had discovered that I had congenital hypothyroidism. Now, because I was born in the UK and because I was born in the section of the UK that I was born in the part of London, I was lucky that they were screening then. It wasn't automatic. It didn't come in here in Ireland until about 1981, and it wasn't all over the UK until 1981. So I do count myself very lucky to have been born there. So it was caught very early on. All it meant was regular tests every week, medication, and it was very quickly sorted out, and it has never affected my life in any way. Take a tablet every day. What it did mean growing up, though, was that we had to take twice yearly trips to Dublin, because in 1982 we moved back to Ireland. My parents bought a pub in County Limerick where we grew up. I was just about to turn 4, and it was interesting growing up in a pub because you're kind of in the public eye a lot. So I think maybe that's where the customer service side came from, though I was a lot shyer. So I used to hide behind the scenes a bit more. My sister would have done a lot more of it. I preferred to be in the kitchen and making dinner for everybody and all that crack. But before that, when I was younger, say, we used to have to go to Dublin twice a year up to Harcourt Street Hospital for tests. I don't even remember what they were. All I remember is I had to give a blood test and have a little chat with Dr. Hoey, and then we would go off for the day. If it was Christmas, if it was winter, we would go to Funderland, and if it was summer, we would go to the zoo. That's all I remember. Now, I'm sure my mother remembers it being a lot more stressful, bringing 3 or 4 of us up on the train and off out for the day. But I just remember it as being great fun. And those kind of came to an end as I came to my teen years. I didn't have to be so regularly monitored. It was, it was all under control and everything. And so I just carried on. As a teen and even as a child, I was quite quiet. A lot of you now who know me now will not believe me, but my sister is in the room, and though she's on dark, and my oldest friend since 4 is in the room, they'll concur. I was pretty quiet as a child, always head in a book, which won't surprise any of you here. Always had a head in a book. So, and a little bit studious, but not too much so. But what it did mean was, because I was always indoors, always in a book, I piled on the weight, so I was quite a heavy teen, and it kept me also, quite introverted and not confident. And that carried on for quite a while, even as a young adult, when I went off to Dublin, didn't know anybody. I had to come out of my shell, but it was outside confidence, so I was bubbly and I was always the one having the laugh and going out for the drinks and whatever, but pretty quiet. When I went off to Dublin, I went to college. I didn't complete it. I did a couple of years. It wasn't for me. And at that time then I was working in McDonald's, also not a help with the weight because they feed you. And so I was working there for a few years, and after a while I got incredibly homesick. I was 22 and I was like, no, have enough of this. I'm not living in Dublin anymore. I never see any of my friends. All I'm doing is working and sleeping and eating and watching TV, and no, not doing it. So I moved back to, well, before I moved back to Limerick, I came back for a birthday party, threw in my CV to a few places, and got a call from O'Mahony's, interviewed, got the job within the space of 3 days, handed in my notice, packed up my stuff, and was back in Limerick all in the space of 2 weeks.
I love it. I love it. And the Bula bus started instantaneously there. Instantaneously. Right. Catch your breath. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Lovely introduction. Thank you, Kat. And as you know, I've been part of this show since the very beginning. As you know, that's such an important part of just setting the scene here. So thank you for that. A couple of things. Love the fact that you say you're always late. By the way, you're never late in the world that I've come to know you in, but back in the day it would appear you were. I did introduce you as having been very lucky to have been born where you were. I didn't quite know the backstory to that, so thank you for that. That was very enlightening. But also you were very lucky, but also Caterina O'Brien, so were we. So were we, because you enriched all of our lives. So thank you for that. You described the growing up in the pub there, and I see Shauna is in, so welcome, Shauna. But you described growing up in the pub there as you being in the kitchen in the background looking after everybody. And Caterina O'Brien, that's what you do beautifully. Beautifully. Customer service no man is. You minded us all the way through this whole series, and we want to thank you. And that's what today is about. We want to honor you for being you, and for you're the unflappable rock in our lives. So thank you for that. Yes, indeed, Lisa. Thank you. Absolutely beautiful. Love the fact that your memories of Dublin were Funderland and the zoo, right? Ignore the whole medical thing. Ignore your poor mother and all the rest of them hanging out of her, right? Funderland and the zoo. But see, that's the thing. Children don't complain about the weather. They just want to get out and do what they do. So well done. Head in the book, we get that. We get that. And then you touched on it leading to you becoming somewhat heavy. And of course, any of the people who've met you in recent years, perhaps can't understand that, can't believe you went through that journey, because you're a slender, healthy woman today. So you skimmed through school, and I don't want to drag you back there unnecessarily. Anything we need to know about school? How was school for you?
School, I really enjoyed school. I went to school in Bruff. I've mentioned this to Donal before. I went to the convent. It's no longer a working school. It was a boarding school, but I didn't board. And I have very happy memories of school. I had a couple of very close friends who I'm still friendly with. So no, I did enjoy school. I mean, I wasn't great at everything, but I was, slightly above average is how I would describe it. Yeah.
I'd say if you're describing it as slightly above average, it probably means you are well above average, but we'll go with that. We'll accept that for now as your final answer. Right, listen, let's move into O'Mahony. So a bit jammy, a bit jammy. That word just keeps popping up, right? You come back for a birthday party, threw in a handful of CVs, and you got a job that you've been in for 20 years. Love that. So you started in O'Mahony's. Where did you start in O'Mahony's? What you weren't on customer service day one, I assume.
No, I actually started at the desk I am at the moment, because at the moment we don't have all our staff back after COVID, so we only can have one in each area. So I'm actually upstairs at a quieter desk for a couple of reasons. I can get a lot more paperwork done because my role has become a lot more reports and all that crack and the returns, and I can do that at a quiet desk. But it also meant it's the reason, sorry Colette, I know you see me with the laptop on the desk, but it's the reason I have been logging in some days when I can on the calls, because it's private, and that's why I duck out, guys. Customer will come along, so if you see an empty box, that's where I've gone serving a customer. No, I started upstairs in Irish. We call it Irish, all sorts of stuff, cookery, sport, just general stuff, and the academic books as well. But it didn't take long before I moved down to customer service. I do remember the very first day before I even interviewed, when I met Colette. We don't normally hire in spring. This was in February. It's a very, very quiet time. And I walked in and Colette, my manager, was there, and she saw my CV. Now, I was a junior manager in McDonald's. She saw manager on my CV and she's like, I'm not looking for a manager. She had just hired one. I said, I'm going to be honest with you here. I don't want a management position. I just want to move home. I just want to work. If more responsibility comes my way later, great. I'm open to that. But for now, I just want to move. And that was part of it, I think. And that kind of tends to always be the way with me. I slide in under the radar somewhere, and before long, I'm kind of running the show, as Colm.
Welcome to my world, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my world. Welcome to my world. And you know what? The great thing is, Colette never saw it coming. I haven't seen it coming. Just we know it's coming. It's great. But no, it's just gorgeous, Caterina. Listen. And of course, I know Colette, and you know she doesn't make decisions on the fly. She's quite a structured individual. Runs a great show in there. And the fact that you went in there and you've been there 20 years, except you did leave at one point, didn't you? And you went abroad. Tell us about that.
I did. In 2008 was the year I was gone. So it was, if you all remember the SSIA, that great thing. So I had a bit of money after that, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to go traveling. I better do it before I turn 30. So the year I was 29, I went off, supposed to go with my cousin. We were planning this for about a year, and she decided that she wasn't going to go. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go anyway. I've already told them at work. I'd already started looking for somebody to rent my room, because I own my house, and I have done since I was 24. So with my brother, but so I had a good strong base, so I felt more secure going, if that makes sense. So and Colette had said, okay, well, your job will be here for you when you come back, which was very lucky. But while I was gone, as you know, 2008 was the year, so I was coming back to a recession. But I was lucky, now I still had to meet Colette again and just make sure I couldn't just stroll back in there, but it was more or less, it was literally an informal meeting, and then I was back on customer service again. So and it was kind of like I never left. I did learn a lot that year, because it forced me to make friends and get out of myself, because I was still quite shy and still lacking in confidence, but it kind of forced me over that barrier.
Yeah, well done. Thanks, Sarah. Absolutely. You mentioned lucky, right? And one could perhaps use that word. I don't think so. We do create our own luck. And Colette, I mentioned, she runs a very tight ship. If you weren't who you are, and if you didn't operate the way you operate, you wouldn't have been brought back, recession or no recession. And the fact that you were brought back at all, and brought back in recession, just speaks volumes. And this is why I wanted, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to come here this morning and meet this woman, because of the depths that are there. Caterina's not one to go out there flying her own flag, so we're choosing to do it for her this morning. And Kat, thanks for stepping out of your comfort zone. Yes, indeed, Eamon. Kat, do you mind us touching on the weight piece? Because as I said to you, looking at you today, nobody would think you had a past with that. And I'm going to use an image that you sent to me, which I didn't use in the promo, but I've asked Eamon just to put it up, because I think a picture paints 1,000 words. Would you mind talking us through this transformation, please?
Sure. So the picture on the left in the black, and actually both of those pictures are in the Castletroy Park. So the picture of me in the black was at a wedding in 2000, and I think it must have been 2015, because it was just before I joined Slimming World. And I had never thought of doing anything, you know, on the surface. And I mean, I suppose I was in denial. I mean, I figured I considered myself a happy person, but I wasn't, you know, I wasn't happy in myself. So, but I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't know how to change. So a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, just said one day at work, she goes, oh yeah, so I joined Slimming World last week. And I said, I'll go with you. And that was it. I said, I'll go with you. And it was just going there with somebody. And that first week I lost 5.5 pounds. I got some shock the very first night standing up on the scales, because in my head I thought maybe I was 13 stone and I was 15 stone, 4.5 pounds. And I got some shock. So that first week was interesting, but like with anything, I threw myself at it. I was all in, you know, and I will go gung-ho when I take on something new. So yeah, it was a fast year. I mean, it wasn't easy, but it wasn't hard because my head was in it, you know, and I had support. And one of the things I did, I was very vocal about it. I put everything up on Facebook. I think even once or twice I might have been accidentally logged in as Colm and posted my Slimming World results. Kind of caught it straight away. I was like, sorry, as Colm was getting lots of congratulations. But yeah, so it fell off over the space of a year. I lost 5 stone, roughly 5. It kind of was up and down. And the picture of me in the gold dress was, I think it was about a week or 2 before I reached my target. And in total, I'd lost 5 stone, 2 pounds. And that was obviously at the Rainbow Ball.
Look, just joyous, Caterina. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for allowing us to use that, because I just do think a picture paints 1,000 words. Thank you, Emma, for that. Welcome back to the cafe, everybody. Yeah, picture paints 1,000 words, and nobody, without having seen that image, could possibly imagine that other Caterina O'Brien. Loved the fact, dare I say it, that you said you thought you were happy, but you really realized you weren't. You said earlier in your younger life that you were confident on the outside, or a phrase like that. And I think we all get that now, having seen that image. So well done you. Your friend says, I started Slimming World, and you said, right, I'm in. And as we've come to know you, you do get stuck in. When you commit to something, you absolutely commit to it. And that is just transformational. So well done. Boo the bus. Are you very proud of yourself?
I don't recognize old pictures of myself sometimes. Well, not that I don't recognize, but when I see old pictures, I even feel a bit uncomfortable looking at them, because it's like, I can't believe that was me. You know, it does take me a minute to, because I'm so used to looking at, like, it's 5 years ago. Well, 4 years ago, I suppose. I'm so used to looking at the me that is there now, and it's very hard to reconcile that person with who I am now, because, you know, it feels like a different person, even though I am the same person. Though I will say that I can realize now, looking back, that it wasn't real confidence, because now I know what real confidence is, because it is coming from within. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Yes, indeed, Sarah. Thank you for that. Makes perfect sense. How long did it take you to lose the 5 stone, 4 pounds? That's a huge amount, huge number.
I started in June 2015. I had set a slightly lower target, and when it came to June 2016, I was very nearly at it, but I was then at my lightest. I had lost 5 stone, 5 pounds. That was the lightest I ever got. And then I went off on holiday, and I had broken up with somebody quite horribly, and it just kind of set me back. And then it was, you know, going on and limping on, I suppose, was my, as I would call my Slimming World journey. And then eventually I was like, I reset the target to something a little bit more realistic. It was only the case of a half a stone, but the cat is trying to get out the window, so I apologize for all that clinking in the background. And so by November, then I finally got it, and it was a surprise as well, because I thought it was further away, and in 1 week I lost 5 pounds. So I stood up on the scales, and the girl doing the weigh-in, she was like, "You've reached your target," and I burst out crying. Excuse me. yeah, burst out crying. It was such a shock. So yeah, I was delighted. Yeah, couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I'll rescue you there from your moment, Caterina. Well done, well done, well done. Huge love for you in the room, as you know, and I think you felt that over the series. So this has been a lovely experience for us all to get to know you. And absolute rock, ladies and gentlemen. My goodness, we couldn't be doing what we're doing without Caterina in the background. Speaking of that, how you and I began to work together, you share your memory of it first, will you? I'll tell you who
I will. So Colm brought out a book, which some of you have seen the audiobook of. So that was 2015. And I had met Colm before. I was in a choir before the Salon Singers, and I'd met Colm at a few events. So we had already connected on Facebook and that. And he came in, actually, I think it was you came into one of Roisin Meany's book launches that I was working at. And I was on the counter selling, because she gets such crowds, and Colm, came in to say hello, and he said, oh, by the way, I've written a book. And I was like, all right, yeah. And no offense, but I've heard that a million times. But knowing Colm as I do, it didn't surprise me that he was getting published. And he's like, I'm going to have my launch in Mahoney's. I was like, brilliant, yeah, talk to Colette, and a few months later, Colette came along and said, so, Colm O'Brien, don't you? I said, yeah. So he's launched his book. I think it was in the end of January, early February was your launch. So she gave me her copy of the book to read. And I don't normally read nonfiction. So I said, sure, grand, I'll give it a read anyway. And went off on my coffee break, went over to Hook and Ladder, I think it was a Saturday morning, and I read the first chapter or maybe two, and Colm was talking about customer service and echoing his dad, stop selling, start serving. And I was like, that's me. The phrase that started was like, I like his style. And I sent him a private message on Facebook, and I said, Colm, I'm just reading your book in advance of the launch, and I really like your attitude to customer service. It mirrors mine, and I really admire it. And I'd love an opportunity to work with you one day. And I added, don't get me wrong, I don't want to leave O'Mahony's. I love it here, but and so it's very important about the with you, not for you. Because I was very happy in Mahoney's. I wasn't trying to, get out of there. And I think you were in town because you popped into the shop later that day and came to find me on customer service. And you're like, let's have a coffee. Now, it took a while. It took a while for it to come together because it was early stages. I think the first thing I did for you was edit the audiobook. And then the social media. You already had it in your mind about the social media, and it kind of went from there, and it built from there, and then it became a regular fixed thing.
I love it, love it, love it. And you know what? The wonderful thing about that story is I can't change any of it. That's exactly how it happened. Yeah, I was sort of blown away. Caterina reached out, and again, this, dare I say it, this goes back to you stepping out into the new you, and regaining a confidence. Or am I right?
That was before, yeah. I hadn't started, so that was January before I started Slimming World. Yeah, so maybe the seeds were there. I don't know, but yeah, that was before. Yeah.
Okay, but anyway, she was brave enough to reach out, and not just use that term, brave enough to reach out to, albeit a stranger, close on a stranger. We knew of each other, we knew each other in passing, and said, I'd like to work with you. And the phrase wasn't lost to me. I'd like to work with you, not for you. And I said, great, let's have a cup of coffee and figure it out. And that's what we've done. And Caterina has kept the whole social media aspect of Colm O'Brien Motivation alive for the last coming on 5 years now. So thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, that's been fantastic. An absolute rock in the background that you can bet your life on, Caterina. If she says you're going to do something, it will be done. And so thank you, Caterina, for all of that. It's been wonderful. And then of course the coffee, that all led to the coffee at 11. Sorry, the coffee with Colm piece that goes out on the weekend. We'll talk about that tomorrow, because we're reversing roles tomorrow. Caterina gets payback tomorrow. She gets to interview me, so I better be careful now for the rest. Okay. All right, good stuff. Listen, Kat, fabulous stuff. Thank you for that. COVID and you, apart from us dragging you into the Coffee at 11 show, which has been a joy for all of us, I think. How has it been for you?
It was intense because I was working all the time. So in the run up to COVID, working in the shop was weird because customers, like any section of society, were all different and all treating it different. You had some who were following the rules and some who weren't. And we all weren't sure what was happening. And this was before any lockdown, and they were closing things and what have you. And nobody kind of knew what was going on. And then we were still going into work, but it was uncomfortable in there. We didn't, because it was before any screens were up, people weren't wearing masks, we didn't have sanitizer, you couldn't get sanitizer anywhere, so it was uncomfortable. So the day that Leo announced that the shops were closing was a big relief, because I didn't want to not go into work. It's not in me to be that person to say, I'm not coming into work, which we were all told, if you're not comfortable coming to work, there is no problem. You don't have to come in, you can go on because the COVID payment had already been in existence then. But I didn't, that's not me. That's just not me. So I wanted to work. And so when he announced that the shop was closing, that was great. We were still able to go in and work behind the scenes. And then he announced full lockdown. So we were like, oh God, what happens now? So myself and Colette and another 2 staff members went in that weekend to fill any outstanding website orders. And then the whole building was closed for about a week because the couriers were not obviously delivering because they were all busy doing any medical deliveries. And, we weren't considered, we just weren't sure what considered an essential service, and we didn't consider we were. But then it turned out that, well, we were, because we had school books, office stationery, and also we're contracted to supply places like prisons and that. So we had to be, we still were able to go into work, but not everybody. So there was literally 5 of us going in for a couple of days a week just to fill orders, but you were running non-stop. Just from the time you went in to the time you were going, because it's a big shop, if any of you know it, it's 5 floors. So it would be nearly 1 person per floor filling hundreds of orders in a day. So I'd come home wrecked. And then this was going on, it was maybe 2 weeks. And in the meantime, then Colm's show was taking off and he needed help. So he was like, will you come in and help out? And I was like, of course I will. And it kind of went from there. But then as my hours were growing in O'Mahony's, because we were getting busier, and I was soon back up to 5 days, but I worked out a little system. I would go in, I was very clear with them at work, it's like, I have to be gone by 5 o'clock to come home and do the edit. And it worked out because Colm didn't need it till whatever hour of the evening that it goes out. So I had a window there. Once I had my dinner ready, I was grand. There was no point trying to do it with no dinner. And then by the time it came back to the shop reopening, it was much more comfortable because we had screens in place, and there was buckets of hand sanitizer to be had, and we weren't made to wear masks, but you can. And on the days that I am on a busier floor, I do wear one, or if I have to come out from behind the counter, I do wear one. So it's much more comfortable, but it was intense while it was happening. Obviously couldn't see my family. I have a housemate here, so a lot of days he was the only person I was seeing. My boyfriend is down in Cork, so it was fine. I didn't have the worst experience and I didn't have the best experience, let's put it that way.
I love it. There's so much in that word fine, isn't there? It was fine. It was grand, right? And we get it. Listen, Kat, thank you for that. I was just listening there in wonderment, if you like, at you talking us through that. And I wrote down 2 names. I wrote down Shackleton and Tom Crean, right? And think about it, 60 plus employees in O'Mahony's. And yet when lockdown happened and Colette, who's the general manager, needed somebody by her side, she chose her Tom Crean. And I mean that with the height of respect. And I hope you know that Tom Crean is an absolute legend. But he was the guy that basically saved the day and got them through South Georgia and all this type of stuff. So, you support people around you at an unbelievable rate. And you are the wind beneath our wings. So I just wanted to honor you. And thank you for that. And you're the wind beneath a lot of people's wings. So never forget that. And never forget to shine your own light too. Okay. I have to ask you a question. And that goes to keeping the weight off, because we've had Angela McGlanahy on, and she spoke of a similar journey, similar but different, similar weight loss, if I'm not mistaken. And she then spoke about the journey to try and keep it off. So how have you managed to do that?
That's another challenge in itself, because it's not like actually losing the weight is easier. And I know like a lot of people say it, and they say it because it's true. It is. It's because once it's off, then the inclination is to start to relax, and you can't fully relax. Now, it took a while, and my head was constantly all about the numbers and what I was having and everything. And I've gotten a bit more relaxed about it, but I can't get too relaxed. I have a COVID cushion. I won't deny it, but I'm not as worried, and I would have been very fixated on that a couple of years ago. Now, part of that, of course, is I can't run at the moment. I haven't run in about 2 months, and I did take up running about 3 or 4 years ago, probably 3 years ago. I'd say I was only jogging 4 years ago, but properly running 3 years ago, and I injured my foot there about 2 months ago. So I haven't been running in 2 months, and that's made a bigger difference, because it's not just for the weight, then for the head as well. And I really miss it. I just want to get back to that. Yeah. So that's how I do it: running and trying to not have too much wine.
I love it. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. That said, it is all about balance. I like the fact that you're comfortable enough in your own journey at this time to not be all anal about the numbers. That's a really important part, I presume, at the start of any of these journeys. In fact, anything that we start up is, serious focus and discipline. But at a certain point, we end up finding a more comfortable way of maintaining, and that, I think, that's the secret. So I'm one for all things in balance. Listen, great stuff. Lovely conversation, and thank you for coming to join us. Have to ask you, what are you taking from COVID? And before I do that, I just want to thank you for being part of the Coffee at 11 show. The idea started, there was no plan, as you know. We just jumped into this thing. Rather, I jumped into this thing, and a handful of people, Caterina included, obviously Caterina, Eamon and Shelley, put their hands up. Or maybe we were press gangs. That'll come out at some point in the future. But anyway, they found themselves with something to do in relation to the Coffee at 11 show, and we could not have done it without each other. But in particular, Caterina O'Brien would put in a full hard day at the office and then go home, have the dinner, very important, because I'd say you're a bit like me. You probably get hangry. Do you get hangry? I do.
I might let my family answer that one.
I love it. So, Sean, you're coming in for the conversation in a moment on that one, right? Good stuff. Okay, so she's sweetness and light all the time, obviously. But once you get past your dinner, then you get stuck into the editing, which, at times has taken several hours. So thank you for that. And of course, it's there forever. So we really appreciate all of what you've done for the Coffee at 11 show. It's a piece of history. So thank you for that, Caterina. Okay, what are you taking from COVID?
Well, we spoke about this at lunch, and I'm delighted to say that my interview is before Colm's, because I get to answer first and say some new friends, because I have made new friends in lockdown, which I never would have thought possible, and proper friends, like not just hi, and in 2 months later, I'm like, who? Proper friends that I'm going to keep. And secondly, a new skill with the editing, which I had done a little bit in the past for Colm, but not regularly and not in a long while. And when he asked me to do this, I was like, yeah, sure. And I had a quick refresher and away, but have learned so much more and have brought it into my day job as well, because while the shop was closed, we couldn't have events. So I spoke to Colette and I said, I'd like to do something, firstly, while the shop was closed, to remind our customers that we're here. So I got the staff together over Zoom, and we had just chat about books, and we put that out on Facebook and YouTube, etc. And we did a couple of those, and it's like, I want to take this further. So myself and another colleague would take it in turns, and we would interview an author and film that and edit it and put it out. And so there's a few of those out there now. And then Colette was like, well, we have 2 authors that were scheduled for book launches. Why don't we do something? So we did the first 2 virtual book launches, and we heard back from Hachette, who Roisin mentioned, and they're one of the biggest publishers. And the rep for Hachette said, we are the only bookshop doing anything like this online. And that made me very proud. I did. Because it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened only for this, I don't think. We would have had to do something completely different. So yeah, I'm delighted. So those are what I'm taking, a new skill and new friends.
Beautiful. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Thank you for that, Kat. Gorgeous sentiment. And you're right, new friends. And indeed, we've all learned new skills through this thing because we just jumped in with no safety net. Actually, the very first show that you edited, because it was getting out of control, right? But the very first show that you edited was Princess Shelley's show. Right, and so the way Caterina and I have learned to work over the years, but she's such a perfectionist, it's not funny, right? It's just wonderful. But the way we learn to work is when we're starting off on a project, such as her editing this particular show, I say, okay, do the edit and just send it to me and let me have a look over it, and I basically get final say. Sure, there was nothing to change, right? That was the only time. It was the only time I ever asked for a preview of a show. Is that right, Kat?
It's right, because I asked him the other day, I said, oh, and did you see what I did there at the end with the thing? He says, no, I just put it up. I was like, okay.
But it just, just shows this, the measure of this woman here, depths, unbelievable depths there, and unbelievable loyalty. And once you commit to something, you'll get it done no matter what. And, we've been there together, and indeed as a team on the show, and we've all shed tears at times because the pressure's been quite significant, but the job got done. So thank you for that, Caterina. Come here, an absolute joy. It's lovely knowing you. It's lovely working with you. It's lovely having you on the show. Lovely having you here as a guest. And I had made this plan with Princess Shelley some months back that in the last week of the show, in fact, I was going to surprise you. She taught me out. I wanted you to come on the last day and not give you any forewarning. And she said, she'd kill you. She'd kill you. Right? So would you have killed me?
I would have killed you. I would have done it, but I would have killed you. I would have killed you afterwards.
All right. Anyway, so we decided to give you a little bit of forewarning, and it's been a joy. Come here. Right. We're going to go to Q&A or comment from the floor. Who wants in? Should we bring the family in first? I wonder.
If you want, sure.
Shona, come on in. Say hello.
Another Shona O'Brien.
Shona O'Brien.
We're not used to this.
Well done, Caterina.
Yeah, very well done.
Yeah. Comments on the half of our next speakers leading into the...
I should have warned you, sorry. And look, Dad's learned the Zoom applause.
He has.
Just about. I was saying his hands nearly blocked the camera.
It's great. So can I ask, are you all very proud of this woman?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you should be. So you should be. She's made of good stock. It's coming through. And so well done all. And Shona, thanks for Zoom. Who's this?
Yes.
My mini me.
Yeah, she gets hungry too.
So lovely to be able to watch this interview. You came across really well because you are really good.
Thank you.
You're one of the best friends I have. You've always been there and you're amazing. And your transformation has been fab, but you've always been fab. So it wasn't such a huge transformation, I don't think, but on the outside it looks it, but you've always been the best. Love you.
Thanks, Meg. Love you too.
Great stuff. Listen, folks, thanks for that. Thanks for being here. It's lovely to have Caterina here and honor her and all the good stuff that she does for everybody else here on the show. We didn't get to talk about the salon singers, but we'll touch on that in a moment. Let's go to Princess Shelley, if you don't mind. Thanks, Shona. Thank you. And
hey, Kat. You give me a serious case of wobbly chin there, as kind of wet cheeks and wobbly chin, talking about your journey, and I kind of expected that. Like Colm says, you're all things to all people, and I'll move to the comments, otherwise the chin will start wobbling again. Every time your voice cracked, a tear fell. I was like, it's like we're in sync. Your voice would crack and my tear would fall, and I was like, cheeks tonight, Michelle, pull yourself together. So I'll move to the comments nice and swiftly. Some quite predictably beautiful ones here, and we love these comments, guys. James had said that growing up in a pub is better than any university or college. Darn customers getting in the way of our chats. So it is, isn't it? It's real life university, people skills that you would never have had the opportunity to develop. Wouldn't you agree, Caterina? And then Dunnock said, and he comes in a little bit later with another comment, but first of all, he said, when you were talking about being late, you know, he said, I was 10 days late, my son was 10 days late. Most of the time I have to pretend for my O'Brien relatives so to make sure that they get there on time. So maybe it is an O'Brien thing, no matter where. So yeah, so thanks for that comment, Dunnock. Lisa Chalfa says, well done, Caterina, take some determination to achieve that level of weight loss. So yeah, and as somebody that struggles myself in that department, Cash is always there with the message, and I find that you're just one of the people I would have met that have succeeded but haven't forgotten what it was like to struggle. And so many have beaten things and forget what it was like to be in the middle of it. So you're always there, very supportive with advice and encouragement for me. So thank you for that, and thanks for that comment, Lisa. Dee says, now I know what a real confidence it is. It comes from within. What a truly beautiful message, Caterina. You are amazing. Kiss, kiss, kiss. And thank you, Dee Kyo, for that comment. And I saw Dee when you were talking, actually, Caterina, and this is often my favorite part of the show. I was looking around, not just sharing the comments, but looking around at the cafe when you're sharing. And I heard your voice quivering, and I was looking around at everybody as I was trying to blink the tears back myself, and I could see Dee had her hand on her heart and she was kind of wiping her eyes. And I mean, that is just, and it was around that time that she popped in that I know what real confidence is. It comes from within. So thanks for the comment, Dee, and thank you for showing us, Caterina. Thank you so much for that. So yeah, so and when you were talking about the book then and what brought you to Colm, Eamon says that book is what led me to being blessed, to meeting Colm, Cash and Shelley. The small things really are the big things. So yeah, so that's true. Thanks for that comment, Eamon. Noelle McAlinden, previous guest on the show, that beautiful, stunning purple painting behind her with the flowing hair. She says, Kat, your work ethic and commitment to others is so evident. Huge respect in reaching your weight loss goal. She says to keep working during COVID, and the commitment to the Coffee at 11 is just fantastic. We're all the benefactors of your contribution, and I love that you said work with rather than for. A partnership of equals, powerful stuff. So thank you for that, Noelle. That's really, really good. Great. And Lisa liked the COVID cushion. We can all relate to that. I think we've all got a little bit of COVID cushioning going on. And of course, Dunnock said not to forget that there's a Guinness or a glass of wine in your case, Kat, waiting for us when we visit him in an Irishman in Troon in Scotland. And we're delighted to have you here, Dunnock. Kathy Mera, and when you said about the running, again, I was scanning the cafe, Kat, you know, and when you were talking about the running and all it brought to you, I could see Kathy was like nodding real passionately. And of course, this is your sweet spot, Kathy, you know. And she said, I have to agree that running does help you keep the weight where you want it to be and helps with your emotional health. So sorry to hear about your injury and not being able to run. She said her first trip to Ireland, she broke her foot running and couldn't run for 2 months. You will heal and be able to run again. Thank you so much for that. Isn't that lovely, Cash? Comment on that there.
Thanks, Kathy. That's lovely to hear. No, I do. And I feel like I'm getting back there. I've even started dreaming about running. So I think I'm nearly, actually maybe next week that I don't have anything to do, I might go out for it and test the waters.
How bad. So yeah, so Pamela Down says, well done, Kat, you continue to inspire me every single day. So yeah, and like I wrote down here when you had said, you said, and Eamon mentioned this, Kat's reasons to be grateful from COVID. And I liked that you said new friends, pause, real friends. And in a world where we've got all these Facebook friends and Instagram follows, and the fact that you said new friends, but then you followed it up with real friends. And that's the way I feel, you know, I love that. And that's what you said. And that for me is a real takeaway. And I love the way you put it, just so beautifully, as you always do. James said, thanks for all the recordings. It's given us all a chance to catch up on those interviews that we've missed. So thank you very much for that. And then lots of like, Margaret says, well done, Kat, you're awesome. Noelle says, seek for commitment, A for authenticity, and T for talent. So that was your acronym for Cash. So I like it. I like it very much. So yeah, so like I said, a few more comments there. Jer, who great to have you in the cafe. We don't hear from you often in the comments. It's great to have you, Jer. He says, fabulous interview, Caterina. It's clear to see how much of an addition you are to the team. Keep up the great work you do. You're an inspiration to many. And then Eamon has popped all the links in. You can hear the love from the cafe goers, and I'm certainly from myself. I love you loads. You're absolutely fantastic and scrumptious in every possible department. And at this point, I'm delighted to pass you back over to the host. I look forward to hearing a tiny little bit about this, the foursome with the singing, because I love a little tune myself. And it's back to you, Colm. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, Princess Shelley. That was lovely. That was lovely. Oh, am I muted? No, I'm not. Okay. That was lovely. Thank you for that. Thank you all for being here and for honouring Caterina O'Brien, Cat, our rock, because that's what you have become to us, Cat. So thank you for being part of our little team. I'm going to invite Eamon Smith in because it would be remiss of the team not to comment. Eamon, please.
Read my mind there, Colm. I was going to send you a private message and ask to come off mute. So thank you very much for doing that. I'll share a little story if I may. It goes back, it's a couple of years now. I had the amazing privilege, let's say, to go up to Pendulum Summit in the January, and I think it was the first time we'd met. And so we had several hours on the train at dawn, and then several hours. And I remember, as well, coming home, we had to stop and eat a meal. So yeah, hangriness wouldn't ensue, but and even that was lovely. For both of us, not just for Kat. So it was a mutual experience. But I just found that it was so easy and so effortless to get to know this lady, and just this quiet knowing, this quiet, unfuckwittable authority. And this, and I put it in the comments there, you're in the presence. Maybe it takes one to know one, I don't know. I would say that humbly, that you're in the presence of a real warrior, quietly knowing, quietly walking your talk. As the Buddhists say, the big dogs don't need to bark, and Kat doesn't bark. She just is. She just does, and love you to bits. And it's an honor to know you. And I think that must have been about 6 or 7 hours on the train, and it seemed to go by in like 5 minutes. And I took so much out of our chats that day, arguably more than all the pendulum stuff. So just, it's a privilege to know you and call you a friend and a rock. And thanks.
Thanks, Eamon.
Wow. That's lovely.
I mean, more than Colin Farrell. Wow, because he was at that pendulum.
That's right. Colin Keaton Farrell and all. And anyways, he was on last, wasn't he? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Lovely sentiment, Shelley and Eamon. Thank you for that. But Kat, they're just speaking what we all feel, and because we love you. You're just the best anybody could have. So thank you for choosing to be part of our team. It's a pleasure, and thank you for reaching out those 5 years ago and asking could we work together, and it's been a pleasure ever since. So let's see what the future will bring. We touched on the salon singers, and interestingly, when because we actually get to any of the previous guests will know this, we get to fill out a guest bio sheet so that we've got some structure to think. And I sent Kat hers, even though we know each other for years, sent her hers and said, listen, the system is the system, you got to fill this out. And when she did, she comes back with, and of course she's put in the weight loss photograph, and she said, that's not actually my proudest moment, right? So her proudest moment is when she sang at her sister's wedding. And this goes back to the inner confidence coming out. And Kat, you shared a little video, which I'm going to attempt to share here now. I don't know how it's going to translate, so bear with us, folks. If it doesn't quite work, I'm hoping you get a flavor for this. But this speaks to her stepping into her power and also her unflappableness, because the scene is we're at communion, right? 2 young children have decided to, it's Auntie Kat is singing. Let's go down here and see, can we play around? And we're just going to show this little clip of video, and I hope it comes through. I hope it comes through.
Small things that make me sure, like how we happily spend hours on end without words. And I know I said too much too soon. Still so much to do, but so much to lose without you. And I never stop and think before I speak. But you said you like that about me. So tell me more, they're your soul. I want to keep it warm. Oh, oh, I want to keep you warm. I want to keep you warm. Behind, but I want you to see, I want you to always Oh, bare your soul, I want to keep it warm. Oh, I want to keep you warm.
Oh, wasn't that just beautiful? Wasn't that just beautiful? Beautiful. Sean, is that your gang?
Yeah, they're a bit embarrassed now.
Leanne was 3 and Jason was not quite 5. So I don't know if you could tell. So Leanne took great interest in the microphone. So I was trying to grab her hands. And then Jason discovered the organ in the church. So you couldn't really tell there. But at one point I start shaking my head in warning. But it's a measure of them. They're great kids. They listen to me. Well, they did then anyway. If I tell them to stop doing something, they stop, you know. So no, it was lovely. It was lovely.
It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful to see it in action. Pure love and innocence and unflappableness. That's the point, right? And inner strength coming from you, Caterina O'Brien. So, you know, props to you. Hats off to you. Huge respect to you. Great stuff. And of course, in the middle of it, the mobile phone rang. Did not flit through to you.
No, and even all for, you didn't hear it there because I had cropped it, but in the first half of the song, I have another niece who was 6 months old, crying the whole way through. But I had a cousin on standby. She told me after she was ready, she was watching the two of them, she was ready to go. She was ready to go and grab. Yeah, it was good.
It was lovely. It was lovely. But I just felt it was a lovely way. Thank you, Shauna, for allowing us to share that. It was a lovely way to sort of finish our homage to Caterina O'Brien, to our cat, to our rock. So thank you very much indeed. Folks, as ever, it's been a pleasure. Another joyful conversation. See, the kiss has been blown there. Thank you, Sarah Ward. Another joyful conversation on the Coffee at 11 show. 2 more to go. Tomorrow's one won't be quite as joyful. It's yours truly, but Caterina O'Brien's going to make it fun because she's going to interview me. And then Friday, we've got Dr. Sinead Kane coming in, the blind adventurer. So we'll sort of go out on a very positive, anything is possible note for series 1. So looking forward to that. I want to thank, as ever, Princess Shelley for holding back the tears today. Well done, you. Big love to you. Eamon Smith, aka the Monk, for those lovely words in support of our dear friend. And wigwam.ie, of course, for their ongoing support, which allows this to happen. But Caterina O'Brien, my friend, my rock, our rock, thank you for being there. Namaste.
Thank you, Colm. Namaste to you and to everybody else. Thank you.